Hello everybody and welcome to this fourth talk. So today I have to invite you to come to Taizé. I know it's not possible to come physically to Taizé, but perhaps in a spiritual way you can be present here. Because every weekend in Taizé is special, because every weekend in Taizé we celebrate Easter. We know that normally Easter we celebrate it only once a year. But since the people who come to Taizé stay here for 1 week, and since it's really the heart of our faith, we want to celebrate it every week with the people who are here. And it's true, the death and resurrection of Christ are at the center of our faith. But it's not very easy to understand. So today we're going to reflect about the death of Jesus, and tomorrow it will be about his resurrection. So the death of Jesus, yes, it's the center of our faith. Even the symbol of Christianity is the cross on which Jesus died. But that's not just an answer for everything. To say, yes, this is important, Jesus died, he had to do this, he saved us through that, all of that is true. But we have to go a little bit deeper to understand why this is so important. And we're left with a lot of questions. How is it possible that a religion, the Christian religion, who claims to be about peace, has this cruel instrument of torture and of death at the center? How is it possible as well that this happened? If Jesus was so powerful, if he was the Son of God, why did he die on a cross like a common criminal? So today in the text we have Mark's view on these events. And like always, it's quite short. And he leaves a lot of questions unopened. But Mark seems to be okay with that. Mark seems to be okay with the fact that he's not explaining everything. That some things we have to understand ourselves. So one way of understanding the cross, it brings us a bit back to the text that we had about the baptism of Jesus. When I spoke about that text, I said that Jesus was baptized not because he had to remove sins, but since he wants to be in perfect solidarity with us, with humanity. He wants to be fully part of our life, to undergo everything that we undergo. Because otherwise, how can he save us? How can we trust him if there's always this distance between us? If we always have the feeling, but there are some things that God can simply not understand because he never experienced this. So in the first part of the text, we have a lot of some different people who are mocking Jesus. Who are saying to him, but you said that you would destroy and build up the temple. You didn't even do that. So come down now and save yourself. So there are two things mainly. There's this question of Jesus saying that he would destroy the temple and build it up. For this you have to know, and this comes back as well later in the text, that for the people in this time, the Jewish people, it was really the center of their faith, and more than that, this was the place where God was truly present. It was in the temple, in this building, that God was fully present. And then the people, of course, they didn't understand that Jesus was talking about himself. That the temple of God, the new temple of God, it's there where Jesus is present. And yes, it will be broken down. Jesus will die. But it will be built up again. He will live again. The new temple of God will be fully alive. And then somebody is making fun and says, but you said you were the king of Israel, and here now you're dying like a common person. And this is also important. Yes, Jesus was truly the king of Israel, but a very different king. Normally, people die for their king, or the king asks the people to die for him, to give their life for him. This doesn't happen anymore in our countries, I know that. But in the time of Jesus, this was common. But here it's the other way around. Now we see a real king, because a real king gives his life for his people. So again we see this theme, what we saw already before, that Jesus is fulfilling what has been told about him. He's doing exactly what he was supposed to do, but in a very different way. He turns everything upside down. And then in the second paragraph of the text, just before his death, Jesus says these tragic words. It's a quote from Psalm 22. But God, why have you abandoned me? And also here we're a bit lost because we believe that Jesus is God. So if God was there, then how could he be not there? Well, anyway, for me it is there because of this thing that I talked already about, that Jesus is going through everything that we as humans go through. And sometimes we do feel completely abandoned. We do feel completely alone. And here, suffering on the cross, already abandoned by a lot of his friends, he also has the feeling, but God is not really here. He seems to be absent. In this moment that doesn't seem to make any sense. And here it's the difference between perhaps what we experience and what we know deep down. And this can be different. Sometimes we experience something, but deep down we know there is a deeper truth. And I think it's the same here with Jesus. Yes, he experienced that God was absent, even though he knew full well that God was there with him. So there are two other quite dramatic moments. It becomes completely dark. And then at a certain moment, the curtain of the temple is torn in two. I think Mark speaks about these things to show, yes, this is just a story about one man dying, as there are many stories of people dying. But this one fundamentally changes something. Both in this universe that we live in, this we see through this darkness that is all of a sudden there, the sun who doesn't shine. And then there's the question of the curtain of the temple. Like I said before, the temple was the place where God was fully present. But there was a division. There where God was fully present, people could not just enter. There were only a few people who were allowed to enter there. And now that this barrier is completely destroyed, everybody can come to God. So this symbolizes also something of what is happening now on the cross. On the cross, Jesus is destroying everything that keeps us away from God. Both death, that he destroyed because through him we have eternal life, but also the fact that, like I spoke already before, that there are some things that God cannot understand. Now God lived through everything that we have lived through. So there's nothing anymore that separates us from him. And this is important, I think. When we see, when we imagine, when we read about Jesus on the cross, it should help us to understand, but this person, he wants to be close to me. This person, he went through so many difficult things himself, he understands what I'm going through. So if there's something difficult in my life, I can give this to him. On the cross, he wants to take all our burdens. And through this, he is starting something completely new. So maybe this is something to think about today. Which are those burdens, those difficult things that I would like to give to Jesus, that are too heavy for me? And through this, where do I see a little bit of light? Where do I see a possibility to start something new? Thank you very much, and see you tomorrow.